afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast State of the Balance. Yes, indeed, it is this time of the month where I give my thoughts, on the state of the balance, in the metagame, how these things play out. I mean, now we actually have something we really didn't have last week, which is, there's apparently a patch coming up here in, about 1.5 weeks, which definitely has some promise there. We don't know what's in it, we just know they announced it, so it wouldn't be too bad to guess, there might be some balance changes in there, though, of course. Ultimately, we don't know, and of course it might just be, I don't know, pink bunny skins for the tanks for all I know, so of course a little warning there, but it might not be bad to assume there's going to be there. But how have things sort of developed since last month? I mean, we have seen more MG42 use, we're seeing more players being aggressive, experiment with it, we're seeing the Wehrmacht metagame changing more and more. It's still slowly, but it's still happening. Of course, still got the people sticking to Grenadier spam, though of course it's increasingly looking bad off when you compare to people who actually use MG42 as well. We're still seeing people stick to the Stoogie as well. I mean, that thing though really needs a nerf. But beyond that, Wehrmacht metagame is sort of the one that's sort of interesting, evolving. Soviet metagame is also seeing a small evolution, seeing more people, not just playing for the IS-2 again. Now the Wehrmacht metagame is changing, so it's have to change with it, otherwise they do risk annihilation. So in that regard, we're seeing some change there between that old matchup, which is great to see. Americans are not really reacting, they still don't really feel the need to do so, and they can certainly get away with it, so there's not really much change there. Oberkommando West, nothing really. Of course, we're seeing a few more people not just relying on Volksgrenadiers, but overall that's it really. There's been no real changes to the Oberkommando West. Played pretty much all fortification or Luftwaffe, with the occasional special operations and maybe some scavenge, but otherwise, not really much. Elite armor is pretty much out, and largely so is breakthrough. So, I mean, there's definitely some changes there needed. Overall, I mean, in that regard, Wehrmacht standing strong again, partly again thanks to, the MG42 suddenly finding usage. Again, Wehrmacht players are suddenly found themselves being less Grenadiers. They suddenly found themselves with more manpower, which also allows for more teching. I mean, that's really one thing with Grenadier spam. It is very manpower intensive. And it does lead to, and overall, it also has a hard time controlling the map due to, of course, the smaller Grenadier squads. I mean, overall, that's also a good thing, with the MG42, it allows the Wehrmacht to sort of hold the territory better. Overall, I'd still say, for the Wehrmacht, we should look into Stoogie and nerf. I mean, that's the thing that really needs a nerf. It really is sort of basically a crutch at this moment, more than anything. And I think it's out basically helping bad gameplay more than actually just helping Wehrmacht versus the US. I think it's sort of basically ensuring they don't have to try and find up some solution to help with the US. So really, I would like to see that nerfed. Stoogie could still do with an armor buff. Overall, that would still really be overall nice. But overall, I don't necessarily think there's really a lot of changes needed to the Wehrmacht at the moment. Maybe a small buff to the MG42 might help a bit, but even that I'm actually at this stage a bit, questionable about. Otherwise, I might say the half track. Maybe move the flamethrower upgrade down to tier 2, maybe, or make it cheaper at tier 3. Some options there could work out. I mean, an earlier flamethrower half track could, for example, also put a bit of a wrench in the works of the otherwise current metagame to some extent, which of course just conscript shock troopers onto an IS-2. A flamethrower hatchet would definitely throw off the shock troopers very harshly, so that could very well be an option there. I mean, otherwise, still there's the US. The problem is partly again just how quickly the US could take up. So in that regard, the issue might more be there, to consider, making US teching just a bit more expensive, because the US can easily get a Sherman out at the 10-minute mark. So maybe something that could at least maybe change, needs to make it a bit harder to get out an M20 so quickly, which is really one of the things that really messes up the Wehrmacht play. I mean, otherwise, for the US, it's sort of the usual suspects. Mortar half track needs to be better overall. M20 could do with being less amazingly solid initially. I mean, it still has lots of potential later in the game, so even nerfing it lightly in the beginning wouldn't exactly do a lot to do it, because you still got those amazing mines it can lay down, for example. I would still say the bazooka upgrades, well, the bazooka itself needs to be a bit cheaper, 50 munitions, maybe 45 if you're pushing it, could do well there for the US, I think. Assault engineers, maybe a small buff. But beyond that, there's not really a lot I'd say I'd change for the US at the moment. Not really a lot as such. I mean, I really feel to some extent, just because the US have had it so easy lately, they're not really changing up, they're not really trying anything seriously interesting, and they're also neglecting a lot of armor piercing round, for example, after bloody times. There's a lot there I think that could be improved there, just in terms of, how the US plays, and that is the US metagame needs to improve rather than necessarily the full faction. Still, some things definitely need a buff, no argument there. no argument there. For the Soviets, things, you know, we're not really so sure there's really a lot of changes needed there as such at the moment. It's harder to judge. Again, we've seen the sort of Wehrmacht game change to the Soviets. So it's a bit harder to say, maybe. Then again, maybe some small buff to the H-85 or H-76 somehow might work out. Maybe more damage to the H-76, slightly performing better. Power arsenal, maybe, I don't know, some more penetration for the H-85 with better frontal armor. Something maybe in those directions I could see working out a bit. Maybe, but it's a bit harder to say there. Overall, again, you know, just sort of, it's just been so much conscript size too, so I really think the issue there is it's just really haven't been challenged to get away with it. So rather than just see, you know, once there might sort of slightly have a few more options, sort of respond to that. And of course, then ultimately brings us to the Orbital Command West. Again, basically the issue is a lot of the options really aren't worth it. Yak Panzer IV needs to be able to work as an assault gun either through an ability that allows to sort of switch between option rounds and high explosive, just give it some splash damage. Flak half track, I think, needs some, and I think overall a lot of the Orbital Command West vehicles needs this change, at least sort of as a temporary sort, because I really just seldom see an overhaul, but just slightly change the prices, you know, cut off a bit of the fuel, increase the manpower a bit, because again we got a massive manpower float with the Orbital Command West. Doing this would, you know, slightly encourage players to go for some of all those light vehicles a bit more than what we're seeing at the moment. I think that would do quite a bit of good for the Orbital Command West. Infantry gun definitely needs something as well. Definitely not performing, and part of me at this point I was saying, no, if not replacing infantry half-track, remove the fuel cost, just increase the manpower cost. I think that would actually make the infantry half-track work. For the Volks Grenadiers, I'd say move the Panzer, go to the Sturm Pioneers and give them an assault rifle upgrade, but again, single shot with a burst ability. I really think that would make the Volks Grenadiers A, closer to actual Volks Grenadiers, and B, work a bit more interesting as infantry without necessarily overlapping with other units. And for the looks, a part of me would say, you know, take the smoke screen away from the Puma and give it to the looks, but at the same time increase the cost of the fuel on the looks just a bit, and maybe the manpower cost instead of, you know, not lowering the fuel cost in the process. And for the Sturmtiger, I'd definitely say maybe look into the cost there, and maybe the same with the Jagdtiger a bit. Maybe there, or maybe change some things up there, maybe give it the same penalty you basically get when you call in a Tiger race. You're calling a Jagdtiger, your resources are going to get hurt, but make it a bit more affordable. I mean, that could work out, in particular with the Orbital Command West, which is already starving at resources. Getting a Jagdtiger, you're basically going to dig your hole even deeper. Maybe, maybe not. But overall, I think that's really where things lie at the moment. That's really the sort of changes I'd like to see. Maybe some of them will be there in the patch. Maybe there'll be some other things I hadn't expected or don't really want. We'll see about that. But overall, to some extent, I think it's really about just the metagame, and in particular the Allies need to sort of change things up a bit. I think that's really where things are. Again, they basically had it pretty straightforward for so long that they might still be struggling again. We're seeing the Serb players are adapting. We're seeing them changing to this, which is good. The Americans, though, seem a bit more dead set and a bit more going, we need a Pershing, which overall, if you were to ask me, would just basically lead to a repeat of Soviets, you know, get lots of riflemen, wait for a Pershing, which is going to be absolutely not very interesting. So I'd rather not see a Pershing added. Maybe a Jumbo Sherman, but not a Pershing. So I think that rather describes that. That's really my perception currently on the state of the balance and the metagame. Hopefully people will be able to sort of take advantage of that and hopefully get some ideas from it again, and, you know, try to sort of take advantage of it again. If you have an idea of the opponent's metagame, you can also do a lot to sort of counter and sort of play around it. And again, I'd certainly say for the Wehrmacht players, you know, begin playing more with the MG42s, try to get the most out of it. And of course, I also forgot, we're actually seeing more Panthers still. I mean, it doesn't, you know, phase like last time. We're actually seeing more Panthers overall, which is great. So, you know, try to make use of them, try to make use of Stu G's, Pack 40s. And remember to use target weak point, very, very maligned ability and forgotten, I feel. But certainly also for the Americans, for the Soviets, you know, try to change things up. Since I suspect we'll be seeing more MG42s again, you know, people are more catching on. And again, that's going to require a bit more adapting from players. So anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope this game you're going to do here and things, I hope it hopefully gets you more out of your game, hopefully makes you play better. And overall, I'm hoping we'll get something good out of the patch here, March 31st. I'm really hoping we'll see something awesome that'll make, well, most people happy. Of course, not everyone will be happy. There will always be someone upset over something. But anyways, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned, and see you all another time. Bye.